Hello everyone and welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. This week the U.S. government is appealing of the benefits of the Iran nuclear deal. Remember, the new deal was agreed on late last week, but it still needs to go through the U.S. Congress before a final document can be produced. This is a deal that Israel has been against right from the time negotiations were ongoing. But U.S. President Barack Obama still has to convince the American people of the benefits of the deal. During his weekly address last week, he said the deal meets America's core objectives. We'll have more on this in a bit. But also on the program today, we have an exclusive interview with one of the girls who fled from Boko Haram. That night in April last year, when over 200 girls were abducted by the militant group. Plus, President Muhammadu Buhari makes his first visit to the White House since becoming president of Nigeria. Former Nigerian Consul General to the United States, Ambassador Joe Keshi, discusses the purpose of the visit and what it means for Nigeria and the new administration. That's a rundown, so let's begin with a quick check on other discussions in diplomatic circles. Westgate Shopping Mall in Nairobi, Kenya has reopened nearly a year after 67 people were killed by Al-Shabaab militants. Many shop owners were happy to be back, saying the reopening showed that Kenya has risen above the fear and insecurity. The mall opens as the country prepares to welcome U.S. President Barack Obama this week. The Kenyan government is assured of adequate security in the country. Meanwhile, security forces in Saudi Arabia have arrested 431 people they say could be members of the Islamic State. Although most of the suspects were Saudis, there are also people from at least 6 other nationalities, including Yemen and Syria. The Saudi Interior Ministry says the suspects were picked up just as they received intelligence they were planning suicide operations in mosques every Friday. He may be out of the cabinet, but Greece's former finance minister Yanis Varoufakis has been keeping a close eye on developments as concerns the country's economic situation, predicting economic reforms imposed by creditors are going to fail. He also says the country could be remembered in the future as the greatest disaster of macroeconomic management ever. Varoufakis resigned his position earlier this month following unguarded statements he made about the economy. And though he is not a big fan of the bailout, he says the country has no other option but to agree. Finally, the United States has assured the Gulf states and Israel that the new Iran nuclear deal will not pose a security threat to the region. U.S. Under-Secretary of State for Political Affairs Wendy Sherman said the deal would rather give the U.S. greater opportunity to address other regional problems. Israel has been very vocal about its disapproval of the deal, but Sherman again reiterated what President Barack Obama said about the deal, not just based on trust.
We are all very concerned about Iran's activities in the region and around the world. In terms of the important export of arms, we are very concerned about the potential transfer of missile technology that might be designed for having the capability of being a delivery system for nuclear weapons. And even though Iran, China, Russia thought that these sanctions, these restrictions should come off immediately, the rest of the P5+1 did not think they should come off immediately. And so at the end of the day, we were able to negotiate that these restrictions would stay in place, even though one could read 1929 to read that they should have technically come off.
Welcome back. The deal agreed last week between Iran and the P5+1 is not set in stone yet. The U.S. Congress has to take a look at it, phrase by phrase, and argue the benefits. President Barack Obama says it's a good deal, so does Iran, but the country's supreme leader says despite this deal, the status of U.S.-Iran relations remains the same.
Among the problems on the Hill,
the Iran nuclear deal will be hot topic for the U.S. lawmakers this week as they debate, point by point, what making a deal with Iran should entail. U.S. President Barack Obama on Saturday addressed Americans, assuring them on the deal, saying America and her international partners had achieved something that decades of animosity has not, and then went on to list reasons why they can have faith the deal will work.
This deal will make America and the world safer and more secure. Still, you're going to hear a lot of overheated and often dishonest arguments about it in the weeks ahead. So today I want to take a moment to take those on one by one and explain what this deal does and what it means. First, you'll hear some critics argue that this deal somehow makes it easier for Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. Now, if you think it sounds strange that the United States, Great Britain, France, Germany, Russia, China, and some of the world's best nuclear scientists would agree to something like that, you're right. This deal actually closes off Iran's pathway to a nuclear weapon. Today, Iran has enough nuclear material to produce up to 10 nuclear weapons. With this deal, they'll have to ship 98% of that material out of the country, leaving them with a fraction of what it takes to make even one weapon. With this deal, they'll have to repurpose 2 key nuclear facilities, so they can't produce materials that could be used for a nuclear weapon. So this deal actually pushes Iran further away from a bomb. And there is a permanent prohibition on Iran ever having a nuclear weapon.
Earlier in the week, the White House released a statement from President Obama, also reeling out benefits of the deal. If the deal pulls through, then Iran would reduce its stockpile of enriched uranium by 98%, remove 2/3 of its installed centrifuges, that is the machines necessary to produce highly enriched uranium, and store them under constant international supervision. Right now, Iran has stockpile that can produce nuclear weapons. With the deal, its uranium will be cut to a fraction that cannot be used to produce nuclear weapons. Also, Iran would modify its nuclear reactor in Iraq, so it cannot produce weapons-grade plutonium. While Iran's President Hassan Rouhani has welcomed the deal, saying it would help improve its relations with world powers and its neighbors, the country's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says nothing changes, despite the deal. He has vowed to continue opposing the United States and the Middle East policies. As for neighbor Saudi Arabia, Iran should use the deal to improve its economic situation and the lot of its people, and not for adventures in the region. Israel, however, remains skeptical about the deal, insisting that Iran has never been one to keep its promise.
When we come back after the break, our exclusive with one of the girls lucky to have escaped that horrific night at the secondary school in Chibok last year.